Hey there, my name is Glendon. Welcome to my 10,000 day Minecraft Forever world, and part 4 of the world tour. We're currently in my villager trading hall, and you can see my main base in the background. We explored these areas in part 1 of the world tour. Today though, we are headed south, as there is one more part of the overworld that I have not yet showed you, and this part is not connected by my nether hub. Last video, we left off exploring the nether hub and all the outposts that connect to it. We'll get back to that later in this video. But first, let's head up this hill and through a mountain, and I will show you my mob museum. I've mentioned this a few times, and essentially what it is I have collected every mob in the game. Or at least every mob you can collect in the game. And here we are through the passage. And here we are. Behold, Glendon's Ark. I'm not really a religious person, but I grew up on religious stories, so I thought I would have a bit of fun with my mob museum and use the Noah's Ark trope to display all the mobs in the game. And I have to admit, this has been one of the funnest builds in the game, both to originally build it and to continue to maintain it. All right, let's just tie up Magellan here, and we will get started with the tour. So there's 3 floors to the Ark, or 4, I guess, if you count the upper deck. And the whole thing is divided into stalls to display the animals. But this stall here is dedicated to the rules and what goals I set out to myself in creating Glendon's Ark. So the goal is to collect 2 of every mob in Minecraft. Each unique skin is considered a separate mob. But where a mob has multiple skins, you only have to collect 1 of each. Alright, let us go over to the ocelots to explain this. An ocelot is a single mob in Minecraft that only has 1 skin. Therefore, I had to collect 2 of them to meet my goal. Next door, we have the foxes. The Minecraft fox has 2 skins, the original orange and the snowy white. These mobs are interbreedable, and because they are, I only had to collect 1 of each, so I had 2 for my Ark. However, I had to make a number of exceptions for myself to make this overall goal possible. First, armor does not count as skin. So if you have an armored skeleton, it does not count as a new mob. Next exception is there are 3,000 types of tropical fish in Java Minecraft, and I have seen people on YouTube collect all of them. I'm not about to do that. That's a little bit just too crazy for even for me. So I'm restricting myself to the 22 named tropical fish. Next, some mobs are just impossible to capture or to maintain. For example, an ender dragon or a vex. Now, if you have watched the previous parts to my world tour, you know I have an ender dragon flying around my main base. And yes, I could have brought a second ender dragon through to circle the Ark, but I just decided that 1 ender dragon was good enough for my world, and we'll just gonna leave it at that. More mobs that are impossible to collect are the wandering trader and the wither. Technically, you could catch a wither, and I have done so in one of my other farms. However, I decided it was just too technical for the project of this Ark. And the last exception is I collect the baby mobs where possible. Most baby mobs will grow up, and so it's impossible to hold on to them permanently. I am aware of a mod that will keep baby animals permanently babies. However, I've chosen not to implement it for the project of the Ark. We're going to keep this strictly vanilla. Alright, let's start the tour of the Ark, and we'll go to the upper deck first, which is mostly undecorated. So the top deck here has a structure on top of it, and is mostly just structure, nothing in here other than the nether portal. And this nether portal links directly to my nether roof. It's there simply to facilitate mob transport. On the outside of the deck, there are a few decorations. On the back, we have some logs here for storage for repairing the Ark. And on the front, we have a small garden for repopulating all of the plants in our Minecraft overworld. For the most part, I'm keeping this space empty for future expansion, and I may end up needing it for the next Minecraft update, because I don't have room below for a happy ghast. So I'm going to have to come up with some sort of contraption to have a happy ghast holding cell somewhere on the upper deck here. Let's start exploring deck 1. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each cell, however I may stop to tell an interesting story if there is one. First off, mushrooms. And then cows. This was recently updated within the 1.21.5 update. And then we get to villagers. And yeah, I chose to count villagers as a mob. And that added a lot of complication to this project because villagers have a lot of skins. And basically with the goals I outlined, I had to collect each and every skin. So here we have the snowy villagers. And there are 15 different skins. You have the 13 professions, the one that's unemployed, and then the nitwit. And there are 7 biome varieties of villagers. So 7 times 15 is 105. So it's 105 different entities I had to collect for my arc. Next we have some chickens. Again, a recent update. Iron golems. Then we get to the plains villagers. And then the pigs. There are 3 in there, the ones hiding in the corner. And then the jungle villagers. And I have to stop here because there's a story to tell. It would be very rare for a jungle nitwit to spawn naturally. You would need a village on bordering a jungle that kind of spreads into the jungle and randomly generate a nitwit villager. That would be a very unlikely find. To get this nitwit, I created a mob spawner in a jungle biome. I then separated the mobs to sort out the zombified villagers. And a nitwit zombified jungle villager will spawn about 1 in 15 times. So all I had to do was find that zombified villager and cure him. And bingo, I got a jungle nitwit. And honestly, this was one of the most difficult mobs to get for the art. And I had to repeat it for the swamp villager. Next we have the sheep, including the Jeb sheep. And more colored sheep. And more sheep. Then we have the trader llamas. And my fake wandering trader. The plain llamas. Half of the new wolf variants. And the other half. Technically, I should have another 9 wolf variants that are tamed, because the tamed skin is slightly different than the wild skin, but that will be a future project. And then we have the wolves again, and the ocelots. Then we have the sniffers. The sniffers hadn't been released yet when I built the ark, and they looked like a huge mob. So I reserved 2 stalls for them. However, now that the sniffers are in the game, I think they could fit into one. So if I ever do need an extra stall, I may combine them. And same goes with the camels. The ark had not been yet released when I built this, but I think that the camels could actually fit in one stall. Then we have the armadillos, and I don't want the scoot. So throughout the arc, I do have some empty stalls for future expansion, and this one's just a little work area, or decorate as a work area. If I ever need this stall, I will take this out and put a new mob in this stall. Then we have the panda, the rare brown panda, who's just, there we go. Thanks for looking at us, buddy. 2 more pandas. I think that's the sickly version and the plain version. And then the grumpy, the playful. And the worried. And the playful. Playful? That's lazy, that's playful. Alright, that is the outer. Let's look at the inner. And we have the swamp villagers. And same thing, there is the swamp nitwit, so everything I explained for the jungle nitwit goes the same for the swamp nitwit. And then we have the taiga villagers. and the desert villagers, and the savanna villagers. So 105 villagers in total. Then we have the 11 variety of cats. And again, like the dogs, technically these ones are, or I guess the opposite of dogs, these ones are tamed. Technically, the wild cat is a different skin because these ones have collars. So I may expand that in the future. Then we come to the horses. Horses are another mob with a lot of different skins. There are 7 colors, and for each color there are 5 patterns. So this is the black horse in the 5 patterns. We have dark brown, brown, and then I think that's... I forget the naming. That might be light brown, this chestnut, or vice versa. We have skeleton horses. We have 1 mule. Technically, you can't breed mules. So I thought it was fitting that we only have 1 mule. So the mob's represented, but yeah. Donkeys, white horses, and then gray horses. And we are back at the start. So let's go down to the second deck. And first off, we have more villagers, because the zombified villagers are different skins than the regular villagers. So you don't just have 105 villagers, you have 210. And you even have more than that, which we'll see later. See if you can guess how you get more than 210. So, swamp villagers. And we have the nitwit zombie swamp villager as well. We'll come back to the nether portion of the arc. And then we have the bogged. You'll have to trust me that there are 2 of them in there. I swear there are 2. They're just kind of glitched into 1. And then we have the strays. And then the regular skeletons. With the regular skeletons, I took care to make sure I got 1 left-handed and 1 right-handed skeleton. And more zombified villagers. We have the snowy ones here. The taiga ones. An empty stall. And then we have the witches. And the vindicators. I'm not able to capture vexes, so I substituted vex heads into the display here. That is the old vex head, and that is the new vex head. And then we have vindicators, and just the regular pillagers. Another empty stall, and then savanna zombified villagers, and then the taiga zombified villagers, and then the creepers, and then charge creepers. This looks dangerous, and yeah, I agree. My only regret with this one is I wish I put some buttons and levers in there as well. Lost opportunity there. I'm too scared to go in there and fix that now. And this is my makeshift wither. Can't have a real one, so fake one's the best we can do. And then we have a few empty stalls here on the inside. Stairs to the first deck. And then we have our regular zombies, again with the mangrove roots as a spawner. We have our husks. And then the desert zombified villagers. And then the... what are you guys called again? Ravagers. Ravagers. And then the taiga, or sorry, those are the plains. I think that's the regular plains zombified villagers. And here's how you have more than 210 villagers. The zombified village babies stay as babies, so I was able to collect them. And that looks like absolute chaos, and I'm still amazed that I never died to that. There has been a death in collecting these mobs, but this wasn't it, and by all rights it should have been. And another recent addition is the blazes. Alright, let's head on to the nether side of our arc. You are outside of a cell. What are you doing? Okay. First off, the zombified piglins. And then we have the regular piglins. The brutes. Another empty stall. Had a lot of fun with this one. Okay, and then we have the magma cubes. All 3 sizes. We have the striders. I gave them lava. They never go in the lava, so I do not feel sorry that they're shivering. We have the hoglins. And the zoglins. The zoglin baby stays a baby, so. And the blazes. Wither skeletons. And another empty stall with an escapee. Another stall for future expansion. And then the centerpiece of our nether exhibit is the ghast. It's the only mob that required a 2-story cell. And you can actually see the overworld 3rd deck down below. Give you a preview of what's to come. And we'll head back to the overworld side. Alright, let's head down to the 3rd and bottom deck. First off, we have dolphins. Dolphins are probably one of the most difficult mobs to keep alive. Most of this cell is solid glass. There is just 1 layer of water with the soul sand below it. So the dolphins will not suffocate in that 1 block of water because of the soul sand. They are a very difficult mob to keep alive. We have the salmon, and this is a recent addition here. We have now the 3 sizes of salmon on Java. We have some cod. And then we have the 22 named varieties of tropical fish. So the emperor red snapper, the goatfish. Did I lose? Oh no, there's 2 in there. Okay. The cotton candy betta, the dottyback, the anomie. I know I'm pronouncing that one wrong. And the black tang. Along the outside here, we have some decorations, chests and barrels. This is an empty stall. We have the puffer fish. If you get close enough, they will puff up for you. Cichlids, clownfish, butterfly fish, blue tang. And here we have cave spiders. They are up there on the roof. They rarely come down. We have the regular spider. And I made a mistake with these ones. I should have gotten one of the invisible ones. So that is a future goal. I'm going to come back and replace one of these with an invisible regular spider. Bats. Silverfish. Endermites. And we have the yellow parrotfish. Yellow tang. Triggerfish. Tomato clown. Red-lipped Benny. And a red snapper. And more decorations. Threadfin. Parrotfish. Red cichlid. Queen angelfish. Ornate butterfly fish. Moorish idol. We have the squid. And the glow squid. And we're back at the dolphins. On the inside, we have the parrots. I tamed the parrots. I regret that now. I wish I had just the wild ones and they were flying around in there. So again, I may change that in the future. Here we have the allay, and I only have one because they can self-replicate. We have Enderman. Unfortunately, the only way to capture Enderman is in a boat. I really wish the boats weren't in there, but it's the only way to keep them. And we have a shulker. And that is a real-life shulker. Show yourself, buddy. There we go. And then we have the rabbits. And I believe that one there is the toast rabbit. So if you name tag rabbit toast, you get a different skin. And here we have the new, what is this? Creaking. The creaking. Of course, it is daytime, so they are not out. I believe you can name tag them now, and they will stay there permanently, but I've yet to do that. I may swing back around here again just to see them. In the environment I created for them. And here we come to another story. So I didn't mention this when we first came up upon the Ark, but let me just go into Cheaty Cam for a second. Oh, it must be raining out. Sorry for the fog. But the Ark is built in this valley, and it's a savanna biome valley surrounded by jagged peaks. I originally intended for the Ark to be on top of a mountain, and that's where like the biblical Ark came to lie, on a mountain. And I had several prospects picked out to do that. However, when I came across this valley, the bowl of this valley was almost perfect, so I decided, well, this would be a better spot for it. However, I failed to recalculate some of the planning I'd done in doing them, in building the Ark, in that not all mobs can survive a hot biome, and savanna is a hot biome. You need a moderate biome or temperate biome. So we have this mistake, and this is how I solved it. Was this igloo that has a drop zone. Kind of breaks the whole thing of the Ark, but here we have some snowmen. We have fallen into a deep, dark biome, so the snowmen can survive here. If I had put them in the Ark, they would have just melted. But let us go back up. All right. Then we have some polar bears. And then the goats. The goats never face me. I never see their faces anymore. But one is a screaming goat, and the other is just a regular variety goat. And then we have this skulk. And this skulk is the decoration for the warden. Now, the warden is something I wouldn't have normally included in the Ark, but since we already had the snowmen, and I was dropping way down, underneath the Ark to keep them, why not drop down to get a warden? This scares me every time I go down here, but let's do it. Here we are. We have a couple wardens. Yeah, I'm scared though. I'm going back up. I need to become more familiar with that so I don't panic every time I'm down there, but we do have 2 wardens in the Ark. And then we have a phantom. I did originally have 2 in here. I have lost one, so I do have to find a replacement. But 1 phantom. Never see his head because it's just embedded in the ceiling. But you'll have to trust me here. There are 3 bees in that hive. It must be nighttime. And then we have the frogs, and I have added the new firefly bushes. I also have 3 tadpoles here. You can't actually put a tadpole, it's a baby animal, so it won't stay permanent, but you can represent them in item form, so I added them. Then we have the slimes, all 3 sizes. Unfortunately, this is the cell that killed me during the Ark, or building of the Ark. I mean, of all the cells to die in, it was this one. It's just embarrassing. So I originally had like a rail coming here, and it kind of raised up and to drop a minecart in there to bring the slimes in there. And as I was removing the rail after I was done putting the slimes in there, I accidentally fell in. And it was high up, so I couldn't just jump out. And I was trying to kind of throw an ender pearl out, but the slimes were jostling me. And yeah, died. That's just so embarrassing. And here we have the spot for the Elder Guardians. Again, my original intent was to actually have them in an aquarium right here and just deal with mining fatigue. It was going to be the last mob that I put in the Ark. However, since I already had to make a drop chute with the snowmen, why not just put the Elder Guardians down here? Hey guys. You gonna look at me? Oh, they got me. Mining fatigue. Oh well. Anyway, I keep a chest of milk here just in case. Alright. And then here we have the ghast again from the nether side. And you can see the nether section of our mob switch on the top there. So I'm hoping you all realize that this is kind of impossible, that you can't see the nether from the overworld and vice versa. So I'll let you in on how I did that. Up above here, this is the nether section of our ark. And basically there's no mobs in here. I just decorated the ceiling exactly like I did the nether section. These two ghasts are two separate ghasts from the nether section, so there are actually 4 ghasts in total. And the footprint of this section here does actually match the footprint of the nether section of the ark. And I left this section empty so that it feels like the nether section of the ark is really part of the main ark. There's also a story to tell about these ghasts. In bringing them to the overworld, one of them let off a fireball, and this ark is made of wood. Now, I have since turned off fire tick for other reasons. By the time I brought these ghast over, I still had it on. And that fireball hit the upper deck and it started a fire. At that point, I had already collected all of the horses, but that fire resulted in about half of the horses dying, and I had to go and recollect half of the horses. But I was really lucky not to lose many other mobs. Is anyone else terrified by this? Next, we have the Guardians, and then the Drowned. My grown-up Drowned there does have a trident and a nautilus shell. I made certain that I collected one that had both. Then we have turtles. I even had some turtle eggs back there. I put them on sandstone so they wouldn't hatch. And then we have the water kittens. Alright, it's nighttime. Let's go check out the creepy. Where are you guys? Hello. Hey guys. How's it going? Ouch. Alright, that is my ark. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's resume our tour of the Nether Hub. Alright, the next outpost in my Nether Hub is the Nether Farms, or Nether Fortress Farms. And we'll go through the portal later, but first we'll go visit the farms. They are down this ladder. So there is a massive space here, which I have mostly excavated out to prevent mob spawning for 4 different farms. So I'll point them out here. We are standing on a wither skeleton farm. Over there is a froglight farm. We have a blaze farm and a ghast farm. We'll check out the wither skeleton farm first. I'll sink down to the bottom here, and then I'll use Cheetah Camp to explain how it works. So there's 3 levels to the farm. Each level has a platform of wither roses, which prevent any other mob other than the wither skeletons from spawning. On the far side, we have some dogs, which the wither skeletons are scared of, so it will push them this way. Although they're not really... Oh, some trapdoors got flipped there. I'll have to fix that. And we have some piglins over there, and the wither skeletons are actually attracted to the piglins. And they will fall down this chute here. At the bottom here, we have a kill chamber, where we can swipe at them, swipe at their feet, and get their drops. It's a fairly efficient farm. We get coal, bones, wither skeletons, and stone swords. It's really good at stone swords. I mean, they're useless, but really good at creating them. So that is farm 1. Farm 2 is the froglight farm. And continuing down and around, It is over there. It took me weeks to actually create this space and remove all the landscaping around here just to prevent all the mobs spawning to make this happen. So you can kind of see the farm happening there. We have the spawning platform up here, and I actually had to make it smaller. It was actually affecting the rates on the other farm. But the magma cubes can spawn here. They're attracted to the iron golem, and they will fall down into this powdered snow. The big magma cubes will get caught up on those iron chains and basically take damage in the powdered snow. The small guys will eventually fall through. And then up here we have frogs on honey. So as the small guys fall down, the frogs will eat them and produce the froglights. Come on, guys, let's get a show here. There we go. And we have a collection system down below here. So the third farm is a ghast farm. And this may be tricky to actually catch a ghast in action. There we go. There was a ghast. There's another ghast. Excellent. So essentially what's happening here, there are spawning spaces right here. The light prevents most mobs from spawning. The ghast will still spawn, and they can only spawn by touching a nether portal. So they're instantly transported to the overworld, and I'll show you the collection chamber later. And this farm actually goes below the lava here. So we have many, many layers of... Hard to get a view in one shot here, but there we go. It's a fairly massive farm. And the fourth farm is this blaze farm over here. So just a fairly typical blaze farm. Obviously from a spawner, they fall down into lava, and then we have a kill chamber down below here. Come on. There we go. One thing I'll mention is that having these farms in close proximity does affect the spawn rates. If I had isolated each farm on its own so they weren't in the same kind of spawning sphere, I would get much better rates and drop rates. But I'm fine with the way it is. It's really just the skeleton spawner and the froglight spawner that really kind of affect each other. The ghast farm instantly transports the ghast, so that's not really a draw on the mob cap. And the spawn blazes aren't a draw either. But these two will affect each other. But at this point in the game, I'm fine with it. To have all the drops in this wither skeleton farm at once, I couldn't deal with the amount of drops it produces without completely redoing my collection system there. So, yeah, I'm fine with it. Alright, we are back up top. Let's head over to the overworld side, and I'll show you the collection system on the ghast farm. There are also a few other things over here. This is my only nether shrine that connects to a soul sand valley. So we have a bit of a unique decoration around this one here. But our collection system is over here. Someday I do plan to kind of build a road through here. Future projects. But we have this desert temple here. This desert temple used to be located over there. I moved it to hide the collection system. So there we have chickens in a boat. So all those ghast nether portal will connect to this portal here. So as the ghast come into here, colliding with the chicken entities in the boat will force the ghast up against the glass here. But it's still not wide enough, and they will suffocate in the obsidian of the nether portal. And we have a little small collection system down here. So it produces the gunpowder and the ghast tears. I should be well stocked with ghast tears when the new happy ghast arrives. But there are a few other things to show you in this desert, and that beacon is hinting towards one of them. This is my raid village. So I haven't built a true raid farm in my world. Instead, I manually summon the raids using this village here. So we have my little bed set up here to set my spawn. Have a spare totem and a few other items. Down over here, I'll use Cheaty Cam. We have 8 villagers in a bunker. That's to keep them safe so the raid mobs don't get at them. But essentially, if you spawn a raid here, this village is completely surrounded by water. So either the raid spawns over here, or sometimes they spawn over there. So they need to come through water to get to me. And I have built a kind of wall around here so I can shoot them with my arrow, hide when I need to, and basically take out the raid party. Anyway, just my manual way of cheesing the raids. The other nice thing about this space here for raids is you actually have 2 pillager outposts very close to each other. So before you could easily get the involuntary exile effect, but now it's the ominous potions you collect. So either way, you have a really good supply really close here. Anyway, one more feature or point of interest in this desert, and it's right over here in the form of a boat that I have constructed in this warm ocean. So there's a very specific function to this boat, and it is to breed axolotls. So it might be strange just being out here, out in a warm ocean, but in order to breed axolotls, you need a large supply of tropical fish. And tropical fish are not easy to transport, so I built my breeder in the warm ocean. And the sole purpose of this breeder was to get the blue axolotl, which you can see we have here now. And I actually have 4 pools of the blue and just 2 of every other variety. In the bow here, we do have a collection of tropical fish. So we have 22 named varieties. Plus we actually have a collection of the non-named varieties here as well. And the axolotl storage is back here. So I had to breed a lot of axolotls to get the blue. So with the pink, you can see that I have 3 full chests and a little bit. With the white, again, it was 3 full chests and a little bit. The brown, not quite 3 chests, and the yellow, not quite 3 chests. But anyway, to get more tropical fish, just take some buckets, jump out this back window, and I have a conduit set up under here so I have water breathing. And I can just collect as many tropical fish as I want, come back up to here, and breed some more axolotls. Spent many, many days getting the blue axolotl, but I believe that's it for the desert area. Let's head back and off to the next outpost. This node of the nether hub is a bit unique in that I have a long tunnel here. Usually I have my nether portal closer to the ice road. But I moved my nether portal at one point in building my witch farm, and I have not corrected it. So future project. But we have arrived at the swamp, and we are directly on top of the witch farm. So I'm going to use Cheaty Cam here just to give you an overview of this place, because it's really the only way to kind of see what's going on here. I have constructed a little mini biome within the swamp biome. So we have a bunch of basalt pillars, and the main central pillar is hiding the witch farm, or encasing it. We also have a second point of interest in this swamp, and it's over there, which we will check out later. All right, let's make our way down and around to the witch farm. I had to turn off the shaders. I'm not sure what. Something is not too many entities in the swamp or something. Could barely walk because of the lag, so. But down and around. And around the corner here, there is a bit of a surprise. And this is a completely natural find in the terrain generation. and it is a fossil. So this was completely encased in stone, and I discovered it just by accident. You can kind of get in the back here. I added the candles, but everything else, yeah, was just the generic terrain generation. Down over here, you can see the witch hut. Now that is not natural. That was originally on the surface. I brought it down into this cave. And this second fossil here, again, not natural, but I did copy what a natural one would look like, minus the coal ore, diamond ore. But over here we have the witch hut. And this is the original black cat for the witch hut. Decorated it a little bit more than the generic vanilla generation. But over here we have the killing chamber for the witches. So you can swipe at their feet with your sword right here. And I'll use Cheaty Cam just to explain what's going on in the farm itself. So we have zoglins. So the witch hut used to exist right here. And the witches will spawn on these platforms. The zoglins will push them to the edge here, which they'll fall down. And then they're swept into the middle there. And that's a powdered snow block in the middle there. And they will drop down. And they'll have very low health at the bottom here. And we can swipe at them. And there's item collection under here. And it goes into this item sorter. So we can get all the witch drops. I really just built this for the challenge of constructing a witch farm. I haven't really used this. Probably the most useful drop for the witches is the redstone, but I have been using my villager trading hall to get most of my redstone. So, but that is the witch hut. So we have a little dock just below the nether shrine there with a boat. And there are some jack-o'-lanterns that lead our way to the next spot. So, like I showed in the last part of the world tour, with my jungle tree house or my giant taiga fishing lodge, every so often I do get bored with my forever world and I just want to try something new. So I'll stick all my equipment and good tools in my ender chests and set off into the wilderness with nothing and basically start again. And this is the third time that I kind of did that with this forever world. And we built this kind of pole hut in the swamp, in the mangrove swamp. So it's getting a bit dark, so I'll probably sleep and then come show you the house. So the dock here is just the kind of the stairs. And right here we kind of have this kind of floating platform where we have a small little garden. This is the main house. Double doors. And I built this soon after the mangrove swamp biome was released. So I was really just playing with the new textures and whatnot and see what I could build. So over in this wing we have a small storage system. Little fireplace with our smelters. Crafting corner. And the other wing has a little enchanting and brewing area. My bed is right here. And I can just fish out the back dock here. So whenever I head out into the world to start over, my ultimate goal is to create an ender chest. Once I create an ender chest, then I give myself permission to put my good armor back on and take out my good tools. And that's when I'll usually finish decorating out my new creation. But here's the armor I used before I made the ender chest and my tools. And my fish stick used for fishing. And my first pickaxe over the door for good luck. The one other feature for this hut was this smaller hut over here, which houses the beehives. So you can find beehives in a mangrove swamp. So we have a little small manual honey farm. All right, I'm just going to use Cheaty Cam to give you an aerial view of the stilt house. I really like how this one turned out. Quite proud of this one. One other point about the witch farm I forgot to point out is there is actually 2 witch huts. So there's one just in the distance there. And they are close enough that if you kind of had a spot in the middle, you could activate both at once. However, I did some calculations, and having 2 farms, you'd have to use something like an entity cramming kill mechanism for the witches, versus having one where you can hit the witches with a looting sword, and you actually get more drops with the looting sword than the 2 with the entity cramming kill mechanism. So I never really built out the farm for the second hut over there. Plus, that farm would operate, if you had 2 there, you'd operate it using like kind of an AFK station somewhere in the middle. And I really don't like building AFK farms. I usually like actively playing the game. I think it's kind of cheaty to just stand around and let the game run overnight while you collect resources. Alright, let's head to the next outpost. Alright, next outpost is the Snowy Taiga station, and that's where it houses my winter farms. This area is a work in progress, so in the distance there you can see my ice farms. Also have a few foxes here. I have plans to build a powdered snow farm over here. I also want to build a snowball farm somewhere else. Alright, let me explain these ice farms. It's a lot of ice farms. Anyway, the basic mechanics of it is you have water down the side here, and which will naturally freeze over time. You have minecarts running under these pistons here, which are pushing blocks up. So you have an ice block that just generated there. As the minecart goes under it, it'll push it up. Once it's done, it gets pushed over. And then as the minecart continues around, it'll push the blocks up. Eventually, you get a huge square like this of solid ice. I've built 15 of these farms because I don't anticipate staying here for long periods of time. And as I just mentioned, I don't like AFKing. So the idea is you can come here, harvest a few of them, and by the time you kind of work yourself around, with 15 farms, hopefully others have filled up while you're mining others. Anyway, that was the idea. Haven't really fully tested that out yet if that works, but the winter farms is mostly a work in progress, but I wouldn't consider it an active project. Someday I will come back to it and fully build it out and decorate it. Alright, on to the next outpost. And this is actually the last outpost. And this is actually one of the biggest stretches of my ice road. So I'm just going to let the video roll. And let's just see what the full speed on the ice road looks like. And it's like 72 blocks per second. Of course, that's just in the nether. 1 block in the nether equals 8 blocks in the overworld. If you take that into account, you're actually traveling 576 blocks per second on a relative basis with the overworld. And there we are at the turnoff. So we're about 3,000 some blocks out in the nether, and it translates to 27,000 blocks in the overworld. And this is my flower forestation. Well, I think this is where we're going to end this video. I had intentions of fitting everything into one video. We only have one more outpost. It is one of the bigger outposts, but still, I plan to fit it into this video. However, it just turned out into a spontaneous wither fight. So I think it's best we kind of cut now, and I guess I lied. There will be a part 5 to the world tour. Part 5 should also end in a fireworks show, which should be very entertaining. So, yeah, if you're still watching, you must have found this at least mildly amusing. Please consider a like. And if you'd like to see more of my Forever World, specifically a wither fight and a fireworks show, please consider subscribing. And until then, we'll see ya.